I'm gonna take this out, okay? How do you get that? Okay, that's way better. I'm Becky. I run an organization called Colton's Journey to Liberation. The purpose of the organization is to help people find ways to get healing, and it doesn't really matter if it's for the beginning, way before you understand what addiction is and you're looking for something because you're lost, upset, anxiety, depression. We run a website so that people can find answers to information they need, whether they're children or adults, or whether it's a parent looking for help or someone that just wants to learn where to go for yoga. And the reason that we do that is because when my son needed help, we couldn't find it. When we would go to the hospitals, we'd get turned away. When you call the rehabs, they tell you they don't have a bed. And there is at no time in someone's life that they're not worth the stay in the hospital when they might die today. So, I tell the story and I tell it a million different ways. But the biggest problem I have with all of this is 6 months after my son died, I found out about places that could have helped us on the days that we needed it, when we needed it. And not one of those facilities that are out there to help us could help us. I ended up having to take him to Florida. Actually, I didn't take him there. I had to fly him there to a place I didn't know. I didn't know if they were any good. I had to go online and research them. And I had to do it all in like a 15-minute period because I ended up calling like a broker one day when my son was finally, and I'll get into the rest of it later, but at the end, so I'm starting at the end and I'll take you back to the beginning. He ended up in Florida on a phone call that we made to an 800 number that we saw on the TV that ended up being a broker to help find somebody some help somewhere. They're like, give us your information. They did intake with them on the phone, and they called us back about a half an hour later, said we found a place in Florida. Let's get this stuff done. I'm like, who are you, and how do I know you're not gonna just kill him when he gets there? What are you doing? Who are you? So I went online. They're 10 years old. They've been doing what they do. That's all great. I get him on a plane. He gets down there. He goes to detox. He's in detox. He goes to rehab. He, after that, goes to halfway houses, relapses, tells on himself, goes back to detox, goes to a lesser, more desirable halfway house, relapses again, shorter period of time, tells on himself, goes back to detox, goes back to an even less desirable halfway house. Bed bugs, everybody stealing your stuff. I mean, I'm paying for this because you can't get insurance to cover stuff like this, and we're all rich, so we can just afford to help our children that are dying because they have addiction. He, to save his own life, met a stranger at a meeting who told him about a place that they thought they could help him get into, spiritually based. He called them that night. They came and took him from where he was, and they took him to this place. My son, over a period of time, knew that God was part of his life, but when he was young, he absolutely didn't have any belief in that. So this was a long process. The place he went to, he was in the 12 steps. He asked God to save him. He accepted Jesus as a savior. He got 90 days clean. That is the most time in his adult life or his childlike life since he was 13, other than when he was at Renaissance House, that he was sober. My son was amazing. He died 3 years ago this Sunday on his 23rd birthday. He spent that year getting his life together. There was always eventually some little bit of alcohol and a little bit of weed. And eventually, when he came back to Buffalo, he had been gone a year and he had done such a great job. When I say he only had 90 days sober, that means he only had 90 days, thank you, that he actually didn't use any kind of a substance. that didn't mean that he didn't have a lot of sobriety in between. Up until the time that he went to Florida, he had very little sobriety in between. But while he was there and he got that other part figured out, when he lost his sobriety after his 90th day, he got really, really, really mad at God because he couldn't understand. He said, I'm doing everything they say to do. I'm praying, I'm doing the steps, I'm with my sponsor, I'm doing everything. I really turned it over. I'm doing it all, and I fell down again anyway. And he couldn't see the hope in what he was doing. He couldn't see the unbelievable success and courage that he had because he kept getting up and he kept trying. And that's so hard. And these guys will tell you it's almost impossible. And the majority of people that do what my son did don't live. They try, and they try so hard, and they do so many amazing things. But the tragedy is they don't make it. So it is important, it's so important to do what all these guys talked about, which is give them hope. That doesn't mean enabling them. That's not the same thing. Telling someone that you love them and you're there for them when they're ready isn't the same as here. You can sleep in the house, and if you're using it, it's not a big deal. We'll figure it out. Or not calling the cops when they're stealing your things. You got to do those things. But there's a difference. They used to call it tough love all the time. You got to do these rigid things and cut them off. And some of those things are almost true, but we did it wrong. And for many people, they still don't know the difference, and they don't go out and learn the difference. My son was 16 years old when he went to Renaissance House. If nobody knows what that is, it's in West Seneca, and it's for youth. It's one of the only places in the world, and the only place that I know of in the United States that does what they do. And I don't know if everybody realizes how that place started. It was an alcoholic who got sober with a friend and $100 that had a dream that started that place. And it is over 30 years old, and they are doing amazing work. Amazing work. And more all the time. But they taught my son at the age of 16 how to have a relationship with his dad, who he didn't have a relationship with any longer. He learned while he was there that there is a higher power. At that point, he still didn't know what it was. He learned that there are other opportunities in life besides just self-loathing. Even though every time he lost his sobriety, that's what they do. The psyche is the most fragile thing in the world, and it feels like for someone like me, it's really hard to put myself in that place, even though I've been there in a different way. It's still hard for me because I don't have addiction on my side of the family. I have a lot of other things on my side that all are codependent problems, but they weren't addiction problems. And I do think that we confuse the two, even though anybody who's codependent is addicted to something. I don't care if it's food, fighting. There's something that you're doing that's creating drama in your life, and you need that drama to function. It's awful. So many of us do it without the realization of what it is. So back to the story, Renaissance House rehabs the children, the family, and it's mandatory for the family to be there. They taught my son how to have relationships and how to understand his addiction was part of who he was, but that he had the power to change it. Didn't mean he understood that because he was a kid, but he learned it, and he used those tools every time he fell down. It's what helped him get up every time. It's what helped him have relationships with the amount. I can't even tell you how many people I meet that have met him at meetings, like the ones these ladies and gentlemen go to. And the wonderful stories that I now get to hear from people that are in their 60s and 70s all the way in their 20s about my son, that something he did gave them hope, or something he did, or the way he came in with his big smile in the meeting. It's important to know that every one of us makes a difference when we walk in a room. Every single time we do it. You just don't know who you're making a difference for. It's just so important. And what we do with Colton's Journey is to make a difference for the people who don't even know they need it. So for instance, I'll give you an example. We're gonna do a festival at the fairgrounds. People are gonna come, they're gonna see a car show, there's gonna be a pumpkin patch, there's gonna be a band, and inside there's gonna be some information. Might be spiritual, it might be physically, like it could be yoga or meditation. There might be a psychic there. There's going to be all these different things there. And it's going to be information that teaches people that it's okay to reach out. There is no such thing as a good secret. Our secrets kill us, and at the very worst, or the very least, they hurt us. Any secret that's kept, like a child who doesn't understand themselves, they don't even know they're keeping the secret. So are we asking them the right questions? Are we doing the right things? I hope that we're learning as a society that this is important. I fear that we're a little late because there's a lot of people that are passing away by the time they're 20 years old, and there's even more passing away between 20 and 35. The oddest part is I don't think people realize that the people that are in their 50s that have been on medication for a long time are some of the most addicted population in the United States. This is definitely not a social problem as far as your social standing, whether you're in poverty or you're rich, has no effect on whether this is something that's going to affect you. Whether you grew up in an unbelievable home where your parents were there for everything you did, took you to every sport, had amazing job, nice cars, nice house, has nothing to do with whether you become an addict or not. Because although these guys have stories of tragedy from when they were young, there's as many stories of kids and adults that had amazing, wonderful, opportunistic lives. And it just is. It's the way it works. And we judge people. Everybody wants to judge somebody. I don't care what people think about me, and I didn't care what they thought about my son. What I cared about is that he lived. I had the good fortune, or some people might say misfortune, of an extremely dysfunctional childhood, which gave me the benefit of a mom learning about codependency when I was 18. Through all of that, I was getting ready to have my son, but I didn't know that's why I was learning it. But I'm 100% sure that's why I learned it. Everything I learned through that process of codependency taught me what to do with and for my son. It didn't make it easy. It didn't mean I understood when he was 14 years old and he was breaking into people's houses, going to jail, getting picked up by cops. I didn't know what was going on. I thought he was just an out-of-hand kid. That's not what I'm talking about. That's the disaster for every parent that has a child that starts acting out. You don't know why, and neither do they most of the time. And you certainly don't know right away if they're on drugs or alcohol. Colton will tell you that his addiction started when he was 6 years old. And it didn't start with drugs, it started with lying. He lied to manipulate the situation he had at home when he was living with his father to survive his circumstances, which in most people's eyes wouldn't have even been bad. He had a decent life. But there was things wrong, and they were wrong inside of him. He was scared, he was insecure, he was trying to manage his situation, and he did it that way. And he found that out while he was in Renaissance, and they have to write their life story there. And you can't just turn in any story. They make you dig, and they make you dig deep. Well, Colton was one of those kind of philosopher kind of kids. He wasn't your mainstream athlete. He was beautiful to look at. He was funny. He was smart. As all the biggest secret about people that have addiction is that they could probably solve world peace in a couple of days if they all got together. They're the most genius population that we have. They're brilliant. They can figure anything out in a few minutes if they really want it. Just ask them. They'll tell you they found a way. And they build things to do it. They're amazing. And we misplace all of those things. The guy that's homeless on the street, when people walk by, do you think they say, gosh, I wonder what happened that put him in that situation? Or do they think, oh, that guy's just lazy, doesn't want to work, or that guy just doesn't care? What do you think people think? And why do we care? I don't care what people think because I will never let somebody else control my life, or how much I love my children, or how amazing that they are. I try to be the best person I can every single day of my life, and I try to raise my kids like that. Mistakes are going to get made, and things are going to go wrong, and people are not going to understand. But one of the things none of us know is what's going on in somebody else's head. So when I'm open and being honest about whether it's 2009 and I was talking to somebody at work about it, or 2016 and Colton was just getting back from almost a year away, and I was excited because things were going well. I was happy every time to tell the story because one story or another, every one of those times I talked to someone, it affected somebody standing next to me. And of course you find all that stuff out later, but a prime example of that is we had a barbecue that they came to, and it was the first barbecue we had to start raising money to raise awareness that there is help out there, and not only is there help, it's in this area. They read the flyer we put in there, and because what we were trying to promote is awareness and the communities that we need to have the support groups in, we can't do that alone. Like, I can't go out and start a support group in every town I go to, but I can encourage the towns to have people in them that do. They, the very first time, did that. The very first time we had a benefit, the first year on his anniversary of his death, which was also his birthday, 2 people got a hold of me and said that because we keep talking about the fact that they don't have to be ashamed, and it is okay. It's life. You got the human condition. You're gonna have it. Talk about it. Get help. Ask for help. Don't be afraid, and don't care what the guy next to you thinks. 2 people got a hold of us in 2 different places and told us that they went to rehab because of what we were doing. Those 2 people are still sober today. Immediately, every time we do something, another person walks up and says, when I saw you that day, this is what happened. I don't know who those people are ahead of time, and you honestly don't know if it's even gonna happen. But it is amazing the gift that my son gave me, just with being in my life for the 23 years that I had him. He's got 2 beautiful sisters that miss him like crazy, that helped me do this. And it's their love for him and what he taught us that makes this possible for us. Because there's so many people out there that don't understand, but the part that really gets me is that as a medical society, they know what's going on and they're still not giving us the help. So if this isn't grassroots, it's not gonna happen right. If we don't all stand up and say enough is enough, this isn't gonna happen right. People like what we're doing what they're doing what Sparks is doing what you guys did having us here today, that's what's gonna make the difference, because the more you're willing to hear it and the more that people are willing to talk about it, the more people can't say, ooh, I don't really know what that is and I don't understand it. So let them be over there, we'll be over here. It becomes a we're here together and you're not doing this to our families anymore. It isn't just the medical community that's forcing drugs down people's throat. My son had a drink, then he smoked some weed. From his very first time he got drunk, he was gonna be an addict. It was in him before that. But those first drinks, when they made it okay, when he felt better and his anxiety was down and he wasn't afraid to walk in a room anymore, which you never would have known because he was so outgoing. He seemed like the easiest guy to talk to in the room. He was scared to death every time it happened. I didn't know that until he was much older. That first drink, the first time he smoked weed, all that was a, oh my God, where do I do this some more and how do I get more of it? Is everybody like that? No, I've had a few drinks. It didn't do that to me. It made me sick. I can't drink. My mom gets sick if she drinks too. Lucky, because it could have gone a whole different way given the life that I've had. The reason I say all that is because I had this amazing kid, and I have 2 amazing daughters that I have to teach, and they are learning. If they ever drink or do anything else, it could be the only time they need to do it for it to begin. It is hereditary. I have 6 sisters, 4 of which are addict alcoholics. It doesn't run in my family, but it runs in my stepmom's family, and she was an alcoholic. Every one of my sisters that are blood related to her are addict alcoholics. They are not using anymore. They're amazing. She's been amazing. She got sober when I was 15. But the fact that it's that hereditary, it's that much of a part of a family, it's just testimony to what everybody's been saying, that a lot of people are like, yeah, whatever, it's not really true. That's just a choice. They shouldn't have picked up to begin with. But you know what? Kids are curious, and I guarantee 100% of the kids going to parties, maybe 1% of them isn't having a drink or trying something else. Well, we can lie to ourselves, but everybody in here was young. Everybody in here went to those parties or had friends that were going and saw it happening. So if we want, we can all pretend it's not happening, or we told them they're not gonna, we taught them they're not gonna. I don't care how much they love God. I don't care how much you love God. They are humans and they are young and they're gonna try things. I may or may not be able to help people on a day-to-day basis, but I'm gonna give it my all. And I'm gonna do it for my son, who deserved to be treated when he went to a hospital, and who deserved to be treated when he was begging for his life at a rehab, who they said, hey, we don't have a bed for you, come back and stand in line tomorrow. He was just a kid. And he wasn't any different than anybody in any of your families. It only takes once, and sometimes it takes more. And sometimes they won't even pick it up until they're in their 20s or 30s, and then that's when it happens. Suicide is rampant. And it isn't just because there's people that are giving up hope. It's because they don't know what to do inside. My son was going to commit suicide the week before he died. He came to me at work, where he also worked, and told me about his suicide that he planned for that day. You're supposed to look at them with this sober look on your face and go, okay, honey, what can we do today? What do you need right now? I was mortified. And I had to try and be normal, because you don't know how to react. If you cry, they're not trying to upset you. They're begging for their life, and they just don't know what to do. He was begging for his life that day. He almost took his own, and he came up to us, to me that day, because he was dying not to be on this earth anymore. Dying not to be on this earth. Didn't want to be here. He had relapsed again, and all he knew is it was taking him down the same rabbit hole he had already been down. I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to lose everything I've worked for. I can't stay sober no matter how hard I've tried. And I could get into millions of stories about it, but the fundamental part is he thought he was worthless every single time he relapsed. He thought he couldn't be loved every single time he used, because he was upset with himself, and because he didn't understand how come he couldn't be in control. So when they say you gotta help them and love them and someone needs to be there to give them hope, it's true. That doesn't mean you're enabling them. That means you're letting them know that no matter what, I love you. There's nothing you can do that I won't love you. And I will help you when you're ready. You cannot help somebody when they don't need or want the help. They might need it, but they don't think they do, so then they don't want it. But you can tell them that you love them. Always give them a meal. You may not be able to let them live with you, because they're going to steal everything in the house. You're going to wake up in the morning, it's going to be empty. That's for real. I used to think I was losing my mind when my money would disappear and my car was in a different spot in the morning. It was awful, because I was a single mom. I have been since '02, raising my kids on my own, working my tail end off, trying to figure out how come was I just tired? Thought I put that in my purse. Maybe I didn't. Is that where my keys were? Is that what the miles were on my car? I could have sworn I parked it a little further up. I was losing it, like in so many more ways than that. But you do, I mean, it's the process. I loved him so much, and I still love him every day. We celebrated his birthday by Frisbee golfing this Sunday. I had a great day. I didn't cry not one time. I cried before and after, on different days, because I miss him. I'm grateful that he's in a place that he is happy and loving life, and I'm going to be there someday with him. That doesn't change the fact that I miss the living crap out of the kid. I miss his laugh. I miss his sense of humor. I miss him talking about the books he read. I miss him talking about the music he loved. I miss everything about him. But I'm going to keep sharing it, because everybody needs to know that Colton was just like all of your children, and he mattered. He was like all of your nieces and nephews, and he mattered. And what he went through was unconscionable. What they've been through is unconscionable. In our society, the way things are now, if we don't all get up and start getting mad, it's going to keep happening. And people like my son are going to get turned away, and they're going to die because of it. My son died of an arrhythmia a week after he wanted to commit suicide, after he got out of detox. When he went to ECMC, he knew what to have in his system, so they couldn't kick him out of the hospital. He had learned that through trial and error after being turned away so many times. He got out of the hospital, and a day and a half later, or almost 2 full days later, I got a phone call that was delightful. Usually when he talked like that, I had to worry that it meant he had used or was just about to, because he'd be like really euphoric and super happy, and it's a weird dynamic. I can't explain it. I can tell you that the first thing that went through my mind when he was so happy over the top is that my son was going to die that night because he was using. Ironically, 2 hours later, I got a phone call. Colton's on his way to the hospital. We just resuscitated him. I don't even know how to explain what goes through your head when you're like, okay, so he is alive or he's not alive? Did he really use? Is that really what happened? I was losing my mind going to the hospital, but I stayed super calm, like eerily calm. It was even weird for me. I didn't know how long I was going to be there, so I didn't know what to take, so I just took what I had on my back. Well, I didn't wear my pajamas, I put other clothes on. And when I got there, I knew that I would never talk to my son again. So he died on his 23rd birthday. His brain was dead. After they restarted his heart, his brain never got going again. I don't want that to happen to other people. I don't want people to live like that. I don't want them to live through what we've lived through, but if you're going to, if you have children in grade school and they don't know how to cope with life, it isn't going to get better as they get older if we don't teach them how. If we have kids in high school that are anxious and depressed, it isn't getting better as they get older with just putting them on medication. They need to learn tools. They need to understand there are tools, but they can't learn that if us adults don't get our crap together and start teaching them that, or start hoping that our educational system starts bringing it in, and we have to support that. And our churches definitely need to get it in there. Because you may not get taught in school, but we can be taught here. It's not just about God when you go to church, it's about the family and the community. And the communities, if they're getting together and they're saying, hey, you know what? I'm a good Christian because I go to church and I'm just not going to tell any of my secrets so nobody knows that there's something wrong with me. Everybody has stuff going through their heads. Everybody has stuff going through their lives that's not perfect and is a little upside down and might even be embarrassing. But the gratification everybody should get is absolutely everybody sitting next to you has the same problem. It might be a different problem, it's the same problem. Everybody has something embarrassing. Everybody has something uncomfortable. Everybody has something they don't want anybody to know. Because then the secret's up, the jig's up. We all have a jig and it's all going to be up, but it's going to be a lot worse if we can't communicate and be open about all the things that we need to talk about. So Colton's Journey Liberation is there to share information, make sure people know it's okay to talk about anything. And on our website that we run, and we're there to promote any place that's out there trying to help people. So if you have a business that's helping people, if you have a church that's helping people, if you have a holistic thing that's helping people, we want to know about it and we want it up there because you don't know what's going to help somebody and you don't know who's going to say something that's going to help them. So whatever that one thing is, since we don't know, it could be anything, but if you don't even have a resource to go to, except an Erie County website that has some of the things on it, they're on our website, but so are hundreds of other things, and eventually thousands of other things. Go to the website, look at the information. It's awesome. There's so much interesting stuff out there, and there are people that can help you within 24 hours, no matter what your insurance says. Get in a place and get the help that you or your loved one needs. Or when they're young, go talk to the people at Renaissance. Ask them questions. They'll fill you in. It doesn't have to be just because they're addicted. It could be all kinds of things. Mental health is a problem in our society because we don't deal with it. We prescribe for it. We go to a doctor, they say there's something wrong, and we get some medicine. Here, that's going to fix it. And then, if you are truly depressed or anxious, it might make you suicidal. So just be careful and let us know. I had a friend of Colton's that was at our gathering on Sunday. She's on anxiety medicine and depression medicine that they're still playing with because she's been depressed her whole life. So she's been on this medicine for many, many years. And it's killing her almost. It makes her suicidal. But they can't take her completely off of it because that causes other problems. Her anxiety medicine makes her sick because if they don't get that right, and it's not, that makes her wig out in another mental way. And all of those things are part of why she also became an addict, who is now in recovery, who is trying to deal with those things without going back and using. So it's such a big triangle. And if we can catch it early and we're not afraid to talk about it, we can change things. We can stop somebody's suicide before they even know they're going to do it. Because we'll be talking about the things that they're not now afraid to talk about because they don't think they're the only one in the room with the problem. I hope I just said that right so it wasn't too confusing. I hope that everybody takes a message, and if you hear somebody, tell them about Colton's journey, tell them about Sparks of Hope. Let them know there's some resources out there, and all they got to do is make a phone call. There's nothing to be ashamed of, and there's certainly nothing to be afraid of. The worst that can happen if you don't talk is someone's going to die. And I tell parents that all the time. If you're afraid to tell your neighbors and your friends that your child is addicted and they die today or tomorrow, are you going to regret it? Are you going to regret that you kept that secret? Is it that precious? Because there's nothing wrong with you or your child. Somebody's sick and somebody needs help. And if we can get that message out there, lots of people will go out and get the help. And a lot of other people will be relieved because they're not going to feel this pain and pressure of keeping this maintained space that they think nobody actually knows about, which is kind of ironic because every time there's an addict in the house, the neighbors know. So do your friends. They just wait for you to come to them and talk to them. Most of the time they're there waiting, and if they're not, then they're not the friends you need anyway. I hope everybody learns to hope and that everybody learns that there's an answer. And it may not be this one here, but it might be the one down the road, and there's information out there to be had. I don't want people to have to live like my son did. I mean, I hope they do in some ways because he got to do some pretty crazy, awesome things. And having him for a son made my life perfect with my daughters. So I'm okay that he's up there with God. I miss him like crazy. But I'm okay because I know he's okay. But I don't want any one of you guys to go through what I'm going through. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I don't care how okay I am, it hurts. So I hope you got something out of this. I hope you enjoyed the information. This is not just a sad story. This is a story of the possibilities that are out there that we need to talk about. And these guys are a living testament to the possibility. So please share the information. Look up what we're doing in September. Come to Sparks and find information out. Don't be afraid to talk to somebody. Don't be afraid to tell your friends to talk to somebody. It's worth saving someone's life over. I can tell you if you don't talk about it and they die, you will regret it. It's the one saving grace I have. I wasn't afraid to talk about it. Might have made the guy next to me uncomfortable. Oh well. When my son died, I didn't have the regrets that a lot of my friends do. They're my friends now because we all share one story, and it's one of our children have died. I can't tell you how many parents have the regrets that I'm so fortunate not to have. We left it all on the mat, me and Colton did. There was nothing left unsaid. There was nothing left undone. The only thing that was undone is what we didn't know we could do, and that pissed me off. And Colton's journey exists because of it. And he is going to change a whole lot of lives because his story and your stories are all worth it. And somebody sitting next to you needs that story. So I hope everybody enjoyed this afternoon. Thank you so much for coming out. If you know anyone who needs to hear this, what we do, or Sparks, please tell them. Go on the website, go on Colton's Journey's Facebook page. We do these cool clinics once a month, and we have peer support groups, just like ours are different than theirs. Ours are run by myself and my daughter as a peer support group. But we encourage everybody to look at everything, go everywhere, find a place. It'll be worth it. Thank you.